Hey everyone, it's Danielle Taylor with Keller Williams Realty here on the beautiful Outer Banks. And let's paint a picture. So you have done all the hard work. You're a seller. You've gotten your home ready to sell. We've staged it. We've photographed it. We've marketed it. We've gone through all of the showings. And now we found our buyer and we're under contract. Woohoo, right? Now what? This is actually a really great question, and I thought it might be a good one for us to talk about since I get asked about this all the time from my seller clients. So let's do a quick tips and tricks for what to expect while you're under contract as a seller.
This is what you do. Due diligence for you.
First and foremost, you've just got to pack your patience while the buyer works through all of their due diligence things. So the first thing to think about is the things that for you as a seller are important are the due diligence fee. So if you've negotiated a due diligence fee, just make sure that your agent has the names that it needs to be made out to and the correct mailing address that it can be sent to with tracking, because that money's going to come to you immediately upon going under contract and it's yours to keep. So we want you to deposit that right away. The second thing is your earnest money. Remember, you will not be receiving that. That's going to be held in escrow by the buyer's closing attorney. So that's going to happen outside of what you're going to get with due diligence. That'll be done on the other end. Home inspection. So when the home inspection is scheduled, we need to make sure that the home inspector has access to all areas. So if you have locked owner closets, then we want to make sure that we have keys for those. You can send those to us. We can pick them up from your property management company, but we want to make sure that all areas are accessible. Obviously, we need all the water and utilities on for the inspection. And if you actually live in the home, you really need to plan on being out of the home for probably 3 to 5 hours. That's usually how long it takes for the inspection, depending on how big the home is. So just plan on going out for lunch or breakfast or whatever. And just remember, no matter what side of the transaction you're on, there's no such thing as a perfect inspection. So the inspector's there to do a deep dive. Don't be surprised by that. It doesn't mean anything bad about your home. It's not unique to your home, but that's their job. Deep dive and be very granular. One thing to remember as a seller is unless the buyer chooses to release that home inspection, we may never see it. So typically we only see the home inspection if the buyer has found some things that are a surprise and is asking us to give them some assistance. Okay, so it's not an automatic that we'll see it. So that's the home inspection. In regards to the septic inspection, if you reside in the home, it's fine for you to stay. The septic inspector does not need to come inside. We just need to make sure there's some outside water on for him or her to complete that inspection. And again, normally we won't see that report unless there's an issue or unless the buyer for some reason releases it to us. The other inspection that's quite likely is some sort of pest or termite inspection where they're looking for wood destroying insects. Again, if you live in the home, you can stay for this inspection. Usually takes less than an hour, but they will need to come inside and they will need access to all areas, any locked areas, garages, anything like that. If you have a termite bond in place, that's great. We can provide that information to the buyers and it may be transferable. So that's something that could be a huge benefit. Other inspections that could happen that a buyer could choose to do depending on what amenities you have, there could be pool and spa. One thing on this one is if your pool and spa are winterized, if we're doing this deal over the winter, we may be asked to de-winterize that. We may be negotiating to de-winterize that for an inspection. At minimum, they're going to want to know who your vendor is so that they can talk to the vendor and get some pool records. Maybe in addition to an inspection or instead of an inspection. Fireplace, so if you have a working fireplace and are offering that as part of your amenities, there may be some sort of fireplace inspection. If that's the case, then we will need to make sure that pilot light is lit for the inspection. Elevator. So if you have an elevator in your home, you will want to make sure that we can provide the vendor that does all your servicing for your elevator. And if you are in a rental program, we will want to show compliance with Weston's law to show that that elevator is safe. So that's just one thing we may want to have at the ready. With all inspections, there may be items after the inspection that the buyer wants to investigate further. And that's normal, and that is part of the contract. So we have to remember that part of our contract is to give reasonable access for them to do their inspection. So don't be surprised if that comes up. It's very common. Best advice I can give you is through it all, just breathe. Let this play out. We will keep you posted every step of the way, what's happening, where the transaction is. While the buyers may ask you for further assistance, in North Carolina, you are not obligated to do anything. So you do not have to say yes. Statistically, right now, year to date, about just under 50% of our closings have some sort of closing cost concession that's negotiated after the contract between buyer and seller. So again, don't be surprised if that comes up. It is not uncommon. So hopefully these tips and tricks will give you some insight into the due diligence process as a seller. And as always, if you have any questions about the market, your neighborhood, your home, you're doing any updates or renovations and you want some advice, please reach out. We'd love to help. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you're getting all of the updates. Hope you have a great day.